I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to just a little bit of an overview of what we'll be talking about at our second District RTI team meeting, which is at 2:30 in the Waterman Community Room. I appreciate your flexibility in coming to Waterman instead of State Street. One of the things that we're trying to do is I do want to, before each meeting, just get something out like this to you so that we use our time as efficiently as possible. We were able to keep our meeting to an hour last time, and I want to guarantee you that we will do the same for this meeting. This also gives you an idea of what a flipped classroom approach looks like, and if it's something that you already do, you can share that with us, or if you're feeling daring enough, maybe it's something you want to try with your own students. I did put a different, this is a different tiered model of RTI. There are a lot of different tiered models out there. I think the visuals are very helpful for our faculty. So each time that we have a meeting, I'm going to try to put a different one up and to see which one we would look that would be the most informative for our teachers. I think it's important that we have a good visual representation of RTI. This is just another way to look at it. I think that having the red, yellow, green gives us a little bit of a highlight. There's a little bit more in terms of description in each of the tiers. So it's obviously different naming of them, but we can see that it's really a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 model. Our agenda for the meeting is that I want to make sure that we introduce any members that were unable to come to the meeting, our last meeting. We are going to do a short overview of the last meeting. The crux of the meeting today will be we're going to be looking and reviewing RTI regulations. I think it's important that we have a solid understanding of what the regs are stating. Moving forward, that's going to be the point in the meeting where we take a look at where we want to go next. I think it's, I don't want to be the person in charge of setting the direction for this. It's really important that this team does that together. The your turn piece is actually where if you have any questions or there's any confusion of things that we've gone over, I want to make sure that we have time to talk about that. Ideally be the last 10 minutes of the meeting just to clarify anything or further discussion in anything. It's important that everybody feels safe and knows that no question is a dumb question. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, October 15th at 2:30, and again, we're going to have this at Waterman. The regulations, as we talked about in our first meeting, we went over the piece that the most of the research base is really at the elementary level. But the way that RTI is moving is that more and more districts are moving to having middle school and high school models in place. So that is something that we talked about in our last meeting, and that is really what we're looking at. Our purpose is to establish an RTI plan, and we're going to establish one for K-5, one for 6-8, and one for 9 through 12. And not to confuse it, I know we had talked in our last meeting about a K-12 plan, and after reviewing the templates that were given by the state, is that really the K-12 template is no different than the building templates. And we also talked about how RTI is going to look differently at each of the buildings. If you look at a K-5 plan, we're hoping to meet the academic needs or identify students, because the main purpose for RTI is it's to help us identify students with a learning disability. It also allows us to make data-based decision making on students who are at risk. And when we look at in the high school, we talked about that sometimes it's not really, we know that the kids they're capable academically, but it may be more of an emotional or behavioral concern. So there's going to be a different, obviously, when we look at the plans, they are going to be different. But I think the one thing that hopefully we all agree on is that this team really needs to be part of crafting each of the plans with input from all of the buildings. But we need to keep that alignment, that K-12 alignment, so that everybody's on the same page. And that's how we're going to get a fuller understanding of RTI. And I think it's only going to make our district better in terms of having that clear vision of what RTI is, K through 12. You can read over these regulations. These are the minimum requirements for RTI. Appropriate instruction for all, I look at that as tier one. And that's just the fact that all of our students have to have quality instruction that's matched to the Common Core learning standards in both ELA and math. The screening applied to all students. That's something that in K-5 right now is we do that with using Ames Web in the fluency measure that we use. We're also using the Ames Web math, and those are given in the fall, winter, and spring. The Ames Web system allows us to progress monitor at-risk students too. We look at the instruction matched to student needs, repeated assessment of student achievement, application of student achievement to make educational decisions, and notification to parents. When you look at this, the application of student achievement to make educational decisions, I think we can all agree that we have SBIT teams, and one of the things that came through in some of the questions is I think that when we're looking at our RTI teams is that, or we plans, is how we have some continuity and looking at how our SBIT teams function. So that's something that we'll look at as we craft the plans. Appropriate instruction. Differentiated instruction to meet wide range of student needs. The second bullet, instructional strategies that utilize formative assessment process. These two bullets were taken right out of the guidance document from New York State. And I think that this is something that we're always striving to do. I'd like to have more of a conversation of what our definition of formative assessment is, and how effectively do we think that we're using formative assessment. And that's something that when I look back to my classroom teaching is, the difference between formative and summative assessment is that summative assessment, I think we all had most of this when we were growing up, is you'd be given a unit test. But there might have been a couple of quizzes before, but not a lot of assessments to inform teachers of where students were at. And with a summative assessment, if you're just using that, it's really giving the student a grade, and then after that, you're not filling in any of the gaps. I think formative assessment, it's important that we define that and we talk to and get an idea of where we're looking, how we look at that K-12. This is something that has caused, I think a lot of in terms of scheduling and in terms of interpretation of this is something that we're going to have to really dissect. The third bullet, especially K-5, is that it is stated that for high quality early literacy instruction, the core reading program should minimally be scheduled for an uninterrupted 90-minute block of instruction daily. We're really going to have to look at that and analyze how we're doing that. Are we doing that in terms of an uninterrupted time? And that's something that we'll be able to talk about. The last slide is parent notification. This is something that I know we have to work on. This is part of the regs. And if you look at this, parents of all students should be notified of school-wide participation screening results. So that would mean at the elementary level, we should be, parents should be able to see those results. They should go home with the students. In addition, parents of students who are identified as at risk, those would be the students that we have on SBIT. They need to know, they need to be notified. And as you can see in the three bullets, it needs to be specific as to basically what the SBIT plan is, the amount and nature of data that will be used to monitor students' progress, the strategies to increase the student's rate of learning, and the parent's right to refer the student for special education services. This is something that we're going to have to make sure is incorporated in each of the plans, and that's something that we'll all have, we'll have time to craft that and see how we would like that to look. So that's the thank you for taking the time for this overview, because this is going to give you a gist of what we'll be looking at for the main part of our meeting on Tuesday. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me.